You're watching It's Life Live with your hosts, Juan Lee and Oliver Marcelle. Come join us for enriching, enlightening, encouraging, and thought-provoking conversation. Let's go. What's up, everybody?
Hey, Oliver, what'd you say?
Hey, it did it.
Did it?
Yeah. It changed.
Okay.
So because it's added now, it changes it changes the wording where it says go live. When you add the intro, now it says go live and play intro. So
Okay, cool.
it does it automatically. Yeah.
So did you have to do that for everyone, or is it already now reset?
Now that I'm not sure of.
Okay.
And
Well,
so for this, it may set it. Like for me, for example, we run multiple shows from
mhm.
this platform. So I would have to change it every time.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
this is the same thing. Hey, welcome everybody to Clear Journeys. It's Life Live with Oliver and myself, Juan Lee. Thank you for being here tonight with us. Let me just say this up front for all of you that were anticipating to see Simone Harvin. She is unable to be with us tonight. She was originally supposed to be with us back in July when I came down with COVID. And then I took July, we took August off, and we rescheduled her for October, and it fell off of her calendar. We found out just yesterday that she was out of the country, and so she's not going to be with us tonight. So just to get that out up front, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to be here and we have something special for you. It's current events all over the place. And so, welcome. And we're going to have a good time tonight anyway. This is a platform by Clear Journey, a nonprofit that supports individuals looking for answers to life's challenges. And what we do is provide resources and education so that you might be able to navigate life more successfully in all that you do. I am an author, I'm a speaker, and I'm a coach of mindset, love mindset. My book is called Love Made Simple, and what we do is we basically share with you the attitudes of love so that you might be able to navigate life more successfully here with Clear Journey. In all of the areas that we talk about. We talk about finances, we talk about relationships, we talk about health, and we talk about self-improvement. And those are the areas that we think that with the right mindset, you can navigate and be able to reach your full potential. So if this is your first time here, subscribe to our YouTube channel, go to our website where we have a free gift for you, which is one of the things that we offer. It's a book that we've published, and it's called Budgeting Made Easy, your guide to taking charge of your money. Just go over to clearjourney.org and you'll get a free e-copy of that for becoming a part of our community. So we do indeed thank you for being here. If you're returning, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. And we hope that you will stay with us as we go through this evening. So, Oliver, how have you been today?
Been all right, man. Not too bad. Just my usual Wednesday runs that I make. Just did those today, and man, just listen. It's life
Yeah,
in all facets of what that word, that phrase represents, man. So, um, the good, the bad, the ugly, the great, the not so great, the big, the small. I'm experiencing all of it in this season of my life, man. So I'm just working now to extract the lessons in all of it.
that's
That's what,
that's
that's what I'm trying to do. Extract the
that's
lessons, man.
that's that beauty of growth. to be
Yes.
able to
Hey,
grow.
and it doesn't always listen. I'll be honest. Doesn't always. That's not always the first thought. You know what I mean? That's not always the go-to. Let me see what the lesson is. Sometimes I have a reaction or two first, and then have to reel it back in and be like, hey, hold on, wait a minute. Let's look around and see what we can get out of this. You know, beneficial. So
Well, that's the benefit after we when we get to that point. Hopefully, we
mhm.
get to that point sooner than later.
Yeah,
Um, but I'm glad that that's the perspective that we end up with.
yeah, indeed, indeed. How's it going for you?
Oh well, hey, look. There's no difference. We've got to be able to make the adjustments necessary to
Mhm.
navigate.
Yeah,
And
right.
so, in some cases, it's being able to sustain the journey. Takes some adjusting, um, and sometimes you have to adjust to make adjustments to be able
Mhm.
to make some maneuvers. But we are steady as you go, and
Right.
even in that steady, you got to make some adjustments because
Mhm.
how steady looked yesterday doesn't look the same today.
Right.
You don't use the same, you can't navigate it the same way you did yesterday, even though it might look the same.
Yeah.
Hey, so tonight, because we don't have our guests, I have a question for our audience. You know, does it really matter who wins the presidential election of the United States? Why or why not?
Whew.
Join us. Join us, you guys, all
Load,
over. If you're on
loaded question.
Facebook, YouTube, and even my guest, my group on Meetup group. Hopefully, you're here. Chime in the comments. Let us know whether or not you think it matters who wins the election. Um, and should it? That's probably the real question is should it at the end of the day? And at the end of the tonight, I'm going to give you my opinion as it relates to whether or not it should or not, for what it's worth. But let's start there. What do you think, Oliver? What's going on?
So, to answer the question bluntly, does it really matter? This election, I'm gonna just say outright no. Doesn't matter who
I mean,
wins.
any election. Does it matter?
Um,
Any election.
I think generally it should matter. I think that it should matter to answer the other question. And why should it matter? It should matter because in a perfect world, which this is not, you would be looking to put in leadership that had its constituents' best interests at heart and holistically, its constituents holistically, not the ones that they can benefit from, not the ones who have the deep pockets. You know what I'm saying? Not the ulterior motive constituents, but everybody, right? So in a perfect world, that's why it should matter because you want to put people at the forefront who will push the needle, who will elevate the country, who will uh, be able to pinpoint what the pain points are and what the areas of improvement are, the growth areas, and be able to put things in place, be able to push things through, be able to stand up infrastructure, both uh, literal and figuratively, that can address those things, right? Um, why I don't think it matters this go round is because I don't think either one of those people are going to do that.
Wow. 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 And it's so interesting that you have that opinion because I mean, in general, I mean, I'm not even going to go as it relates to particularly this particular meaning that this one's different than any other one. Because let's go to the first question that I have
Okay.
for us. Um, what is American politics? Because I think what you just said is contrary to that very definition. It's a little bit.
Mm. Okay.
It's very interesting because I think we think that what you said
Hmm.
is what the election is all about.
Okay.
But
Okay.
the definition of politics, I'm just going about the definition of it,
Hmm.
an activity of the government where individuals or parties achieve power.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. So based on that definition, it don't have nothing to do with us.
Mm-mm,
And I'm with you.
mm-mm,
I'm with you on that.
mm-mm.
And that's clear. And that is clearly evident.
Well, but see, I think here's my point. If we don't understand that, we perceive it as something that it's not.
Now, let me ask you this, and not to derail the question. We don't want to do too much historical stuff. I mean, it plays a part. But do you think we all know the history, at least what was taught to us, and those of us
Mhm.
who you chose to dig, maybe got a little bit more context. I I believe that at the core, that probably was always the goal.
I would say that it was this is the way it was written.
Right. It was always that way.
Hmm.
We we've attempted from time to time to institute a humanity component into it that may cause us to think the way I just that to think in a way that would cause me to say something like what I said earlier.
Yeah, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with what you said, and I just think that if we're going to be if we're going to have a good way of being able to navigate this experience
Hmm.
and this politics is has such a is that my camera.
Yeah, I was just about to say I think it got blurry
i'm
on you.
gonna i'm gonna try something real quick. Does that do any better?
Yeah, it's still a little blurry.
mm,
Is
I
it
don't know.
it has autofocus?
Yeah,
So put your hand in front of it and see if it changes.
yeah, see that, see how clear that is.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't.
Now you're good. You're good now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that if we're expecting something that's not realistic or it's inconsistent with what it was supposed to be, it's
Mhm.
very likely that we're going to be disappointed.
Interesting too. Yeah, because based on that definition, right? You have these arguments where you say, people will argue Obama didn't do anything for black people, or so and so didn't do anything for this segment, or so and so didn't do that. Ain't what it's about at the end of the day.
I mean, you think about our country as it's made up. It's made up of a bunch of immigrants.
Hmm.
It's just a bunch of a whole lot of different people coming together. And the thing about it is when they decided to do this, they was like, okay, somebody got to be in charge. They need to have somebody. We got to have somebody in power. And so we have this political system that determines power. Who got control?
Right. And that's a key word. Who has control, not who leads. Those are two different things.
Well, because power has nothing to do with leading. It just has to do with
Right.
power,
Right. Power has everything to do with control.
control.
I don't necessarily have any desire to lead you, to care for you, to look out for you, to build for you in any way. I just want control of the situation.
Well, but see, and the thing about it is then if you know how the game is played, okay, if you know how the game is played,
Mm-hmm.
now you and I have to now be responsible to be able to play the game, to get in the game. See, if I'm going in the game thinking that they got my best interest or they should have my best interest in mind, you already losing the game.
Yeah, but what do you say to the people who are like, man, I don't even have the capacity to get in the game. Like, I don't have, I can't get in the game. I don't have no equipment. I don't have no nothing to get into the game, and I don't have no way of getting the stuff that I need to get into the game.
Okay, the game, you're a citizen, you're in the game. If you're here, you're in the game. I mean, if you are a legally abiding citizen, you're in the game.
Okay.
That's all it takes is to be a citizen. That's why we having this issue with immigration, because everybody that's here ain't got no, they getting things that they ain't entitled to because they here and they illegally here and they getting the benefits and they ain't putting the work in. They ain't playing they ain't playing the game right.
Okay.
But the fact is that that's where you got people that's saying, "Whoa, how they gonna play the game and they ain't even supposed to be here." That's if. But if you got papers and you're legally here and you're born, you in the game. So I mean, when you said you can't get in the game, how do you perceive not being in the game?
So when I say that, I mean, so for those who, because if you look at how the population is segmented, right? You have individuals who have more access than others. You have individuals who have more resources than others. You have individuals who have more access to resources than others. And the list goes on and on, right? There's a very large disparity between the haves and have-nots,
Mm-hmm.
between the wealthy and those in poverty, the educated and the uneducated, and those who have access to education and those who do not have access. So that's what I mean when I say that. So if you're on this side of the coin, not too much access to resources, not too much access to education, uh, there's going to be that feeling that, okay, I don't even have what I need to even get over there. The game looks like it's all over there.
But in all of those things that you just described, nothing that you said power.
Yeah, that's true. I agree
None
with
of that
that.
stuff said power.
I agree with that, but I think I'm speaking from those people's perception of it,
Well,
because
again,
nothing of it says power, but to those people, they're going to associate that with having more power.
but this is the point I'm saying is if you can't you can't cross the game up. You got to realize that those things that you're talking about, those things
Hmm.
that you don't have,
Hmm.
they're not indicative to their results of.
Okay, explain that. I know where you're going, but like,
Power gets those things.
okay,
You
so the
don't.
goal is to get power.
It's to be able to have power.
Okay,
The goal is to have power.
so then what? And again, this, I don't want to derail the conversation. Then that question from the individuals who don't feel like they are at an advantage. How do you get power?
How do you get power? You got to understand the game.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Understand the game. It doesn't matter. It Here's the point. Let me use them and give an example.
Hmm.
2 or 3 years ago, athletes in sports, college athletes, they were basically they were slaves to their institutions.
Hmm.
Student athletes were making colleges big money.
Hmm.
2 years ago, what is it? IAL, what they call it?
Oh, the name and image likeness, NIL.
All of a sudden, The same people that was playing baseball, basketball, running track, playing football were not making any money. All of a sudden, the game changed, and now they were doing the same thing that they were doing. Now
Mm-hmm.
they're getting paid in as a collegiate, as in the collegiate.
Mm-hmm.
So my point being is that you didn't all of a sudden start playing sports when they changed the game. You were already playing it. You just wasn't getting paid for it. They changed the rule, and you were prepared for the rule change.
Mm-hmm.
You were prepared for the rule change. Now everybody been talking about it for years, but
Mm-hmm.
that didn't stop people from being athletes, being able to be good at it because they were looking forward to being a professional in football or basketball or baseball. But the fact of the matter is nobody knew when this was or if it was ever going to happen. But it didn't stop people from being athletes.
Yeah.
But you've got to be able to play the game for you to be able to get the advantage and understand what the benefits are when the time comes to happen. You've got to prepare. We talk about that on this play,
Mm-hmm.
on this show. We talk about preparation.
Yeah.
You've got to be prepared. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but you've got to be able to be in the moment, doing your very best in the moment, not understanding what tomorrow might bring. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but you've got to be able to be your best today so that when things change, and things will change, things are going to change, you're prepared for them. That's where preparation meets opportunity. Opportunities come when things change, but you don't know if you haven't been preparing. You don't know what that opportunity might be. But that means being your very best today, doing the very best you know how to do today at what you're doing, doing the basketball player today, even before the NIL thing was coming about. That's what prepared them for the problem when it came, that it was there. So here's what I'm saying. In life, we've got to do the best with what we have right now. Be what we are. Whatever the challenges are, we got to be conscious of where we are and say, okay, I'm going to be the best of what I am and hope that tomorrow is going to be something that I'm good at so that I can be able to be available for whatever that change is going to be to happen, and always growing. And we started this conversation about growing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was painful. It's going to be painful. It ain't always going to feel good, but it's the benefits of it is the growth that we get. And that's the benefit that's going to happen, that we're going to be able to be prepared for tomorrow that we weren't prepared for today.
Yeah. I think, and I'm not saying this just to be controversial. I really mean this.
Go ahead.
I I think that I've adopted that mentality. We're just going to deal with what we got and make the best of the situation is, regardless of what's happening in American politics. Um, and I think I adopted that for two reasons. One, because there's less stress in that philosophy. Two, because I feel like I very quickly recognized and realized that what's happening up the block, up 95 south, ain't gonna benefit me one way or the other.
I think you're getting here's where I'm, and I don't want to get to the end before we get through the process here,
Mm-hmm.
because the what you're saying, you and I agree with what you're saying. It's just we're not probably going to agree with the why we're saying it.
Right, and I agree with that because that leads into question two, right? Because the I can tell you right now, full transparency, the danger in that mentality from my perspective, my personal perspective,
Mm-hmm.
is that the propensity to not get involved is high.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll admit that. I'll admit that. I didn't watch the debate last night. It's just some stuff that mentality for me in my through the lens of my perspective often causes me to not care one way or the other. I admit it.
And again, um, remember the question that's going on the ticker there.
Hmm.
Does it really matter who wins the election in the United States? Why or why not?
And that's
See,
why I answered it in the beginning. That's why I answered it the way I answered it.
yeah, but see, but the point I'm saying is I think you and I can come to the same conclusion, but our why is a little bit different.
Right. Right.
And therein lies, I think, is where we're gonna get the benefit, I think, from it not mattering.
Hmm.
And I think therein lies, we're going to talk about that when we get to that. The other question is that you really basically just got to it. Number two question: should we participate in politics?
Yes.
Why?
Now, do we is a whole nother hours long conversation, right? I'll tell you why. So I'm gonna tell you again, me, obviously, based on what I just said, you probably can conclude that I don't really participate that much.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having said that, I do vote and I do pay attention. I pay attention enough to vote. So I'm not just oblivious and just ignoring everything. Also, although sometimes I really want to. But why I feel like we should participate is not so much, again, this my perspective is going to be, I'm not going to say skewed. I was going to say skewed, but my perspective is going to be different in terms of I think our whys might be different depending
Mm-hmm.
on how we answer this question.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the reason why I say yes, we should participate is because you should be knowledgeable about what's happening. Even if you don't think what's happening affects you, you should still know. Like you should still be knowledgeable because with some level of knowledge comes power. Now, it may not be the kind of power that causes you to change the entire scenario, but it may be the kind of power that allows you to step up to the plate in areas where you can make a difference. Like you can go to some of your county meetings, you can go to some of your neighborhood meetings. There are some things that you can do, but if you don't know nothing, you can't do nothing. So that's why I feel like it's important. I don't think that outside of that, on the grand scale of being involved in politics, I don't know. This is conspiracy, and it's going to sound like conspiracy, but I think that some people, the higher you get up in being involved in politics, the less it becomes about what you can do and more about what you can gain.
Again, again, if we're operating on the concept of what you think of politics is doing something for the constituents,
Right. Then you're always off. But that's
this is
that's my
well, but see, this is hopefully in light of this conversation. If you begin to change the perspective,
mhm,
and you said power, knowledge is power, participation is knowledge, that's power. We're talking about power.
mhm,
Politics is power. Should
mhm.
we participate in politics? You were asking, how do we get this power? How do we get this power?
You got to participate to
Participate.
get. Yeah, you got to.
Participate.
You do.
That's where you get the power because it's come from that participation that you get the power.
So let me ask you this: from your perspective, what does participation even look like? Maybe we should define that first.
Participation is having everything to do with what you said and understanding that the power that this politics is trying to possess. If you understand the power that you are participating in,
Hmm.
because again, you are the constituent that they are going to now be in charge. They're going to be controlling you, whether you want it or not.
Hmm.
That's what they're going to be doing. And so if we don't participate, you have no reason to begin to think about you don't like the person who's in charge of you or controlling you.
Yeah, I
You
get that.
can you can complain all you want, but you gave the power to them.
I get that. I get that.
It's from this philosophy, is this perspective that we have to begin to swift shift. If we're thinking that what's in it for me, and what you're expecting them to give you something, that ain't how this gonna work.
So in light of that, what is what's the motivation, if that's the right word? What's the reason for? What's the goal behind getting power? If it's not so if I as a person who's looking at the people in power, if it's not for me to be like, okay, they're in power, how can they help me now that they're in power? If that's not if that's not the right, I'm doing that in air quotes, philosophy or ideology to have.
Mhm.
If I participate to get power, what's my goal? So that I can do stuff for other
Function.
people?
No,
Or
function.
okay.
You just trying to function. You know how we talk about participating in this thing called life?
Hmm.
If you don't understand how it works, how you gonna participate?
I think that's and I'm only asking that question because I think that that's where I think that's the disconnect, right? Because you have people who are looking to the people in power to help change their situation in one way or another, right? Then you have the people who are participating so that they can get in power, not so they could help change somebody's situation, but so that they can change their own.
I don't disagree with any of those hopes and those um thoughts or those concept or that way that you said people were trying to help themselves.
Hmm.
I agree that they're both people. The next question is going to answer
Okay.
what this is, what we're talking about right now.
But hold on, before
What
we go to
form of
that, the answer how'd you answer number two? Yes?
what? Oh
What's
yes,
your answer to number
absolutely,
two? Okay.
absolutely. You should participate because that's where the power is. That's where we're trying to get into this thing called this our government to participate
Hmm.
in the space in which we are living in. We've got to be able to get some power. We got to participate.
Okay. Okay. Let's go to three.
Number three, this is where we understand what form of government does the United States practice.
All right. Here's where it's gonna get fun. Here's where it's gonna get fun. This is kind of where we started talking off camera. Right.
Mm-hmm. And
Um, so it, if you were to if there were people in the comments answering this question, many people would probably say democracy. That's the word that is thrown, air quotes, around as it relates to the ideology that governs the space that we call the United States. Now, you're going to introduce something which may be a new term to some. So let's talk about that.
yeah, it's called a constitutional republic.
Hmm. Which is what?
Constitution republic, I guess you have to start with democracy. Yes, we've heard democracy and
Hmm.
we talk about it, and especially right now, we're talking about it as a democracy, as in a it's being threatened.
Hmm.
This thing called democracy, this way in which our government operates. Democracy basically means that it's it's governed by the people,
Okay.
but literal. It's literal,
Hmm.
meaning that each person votes on the laws that are going to regulate or to rule or be in control, that are going to that are going to be covering the society in which they're in. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be the rules. They're going to set the rules for themselves. Each person that's of age, they're the ones that are going to be voting on each one of those rules.
Mm-hmm.
And it's majority rules. The majority rules.
That's democracy.
That's democracy.
Right.
Okay. There's nobody in between you and the rules that are being agreed upon.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is that if you're not in the majority, they're gonna walk over you
Mm-hmm.
because they're in the majority and there's no protection for the minority.
Right. Right. So that's
Constitutional
interesting.
republic.
That's interesting. So before you get there, though,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where that's a term that might be introduced into some constitutional republic.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting with the democracy piece, right, is when you look at definitions, right? Definition
Mm-hmm.
of democracy. Democracy is um, governed by the majority, right? So, and it's key to say this. I'm just repeating what you're saying because it's so key to the conversation. If you are not in the majority, democracy is trash for you. I just wanted to say it my way.
That's a simple way of putting it.
If you're not in the majority, there is no point. It's like it doesn't even exist to you because you ain't gonna get what you looking for because you ain't in the majority, which is a very interesting ideology to subscribe to when it comes to the government of people. That's a whole nother conversation. We don't have to get
Mm-hmm.
into it. But if you
Well,
think about that, if you think about that, if democracy is the rule of the majority and you are in the minority, that means there's never any hope for you. Period. I don't mean to sound bleak. I'm just
well, I
trying to
mean,
be
unless you can, because again, we're talking about the laws. So
right.
you're going
Unless
to
you can flip
vote
it.
for the laws,
Right.
and as if you're not, if the law that they're voting for is against you, then that law is going to be pushing you down so that everybody else can get the benefits of that law. So if you're on the bottom of it,
Right.
the opposite of that law, you
Right.
vote for you, but everybody else vote for them, you lose.
Right. And so hence the reason why you hear people say, democracy is being threatened, right? Because democracy is being threatened for those who are in the majority, because or for those who are in the minority, depending on how you look at it. Because the
Well,
majority may feel like they're gonna get flipped. The minority may feel like we ain't gonna never. There's no hope.
yes, okay. But again, the question is, what form of government does the United States practice?
Mm-hmm.
This is critical into this, whether or not you're going to participate in politics, because politics is the thing, is the vehicle that supports the government, the system of the government.
So I'm gonna read something that's gonna set you up to start talking about what you're about to talk about. Okay. So it says, while often categorized as a democracy, the United States is more accurately defined as a constitutional federal
Republic.
republic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now talk
and
about what that means.
and that constitutional federal republic is basically, it's similar to democracy in the sense that the majority rules,
Hmm.
but they rule in a way that they pick the people that will vote for the laws that will govern.
Hmm.
Okay, and with the Constitution protect the minority,
Right.
giving them an opportunity to be able to be a voice in the situation. in the doggone law with the law in mind. Again, the Constitution, then you have amendments. We getting all into all this other stuff
Mhm.
because if you remember, this is where it gets really dicey because black people didn't wasn't people until the amendments to the constitutions,
Mhm.
which gave them rights that was that minority, not the majority, the minority gave them some rights now. So it really changed the dynamics of the Constitution with the amendments.
Mhm.
But if it wasn't for the Constitution, we would never we would have never gotten in.
Mhm.
So you got to realize that we we're not operating under democracy. We're operating under a constitutional federal republic.
So can I just be controversial?
Go right ahead.
Both are dangerous.
Look, oh,
Both are very
we
dangerous. Like if
we
you
we
really think about what both of those mean, right? One is ruled by the majority. So if you're the minority, you out of there. You caught out there, right? The other one, the Constitution is the supreme law of the United States. So if it ain't in the Constitution and the Constitution don't speak to anything that benefits you in any way, you out of there. You caught out there.
well, but that's why that's why the amendments are in place and how things have evolved, which gives it the opportunity to change. Whereas the democracy has none.
Right.
They just basically straight up whoever who majority rule.
So let me
There is no options for changing. This is the way we rolling.
right. Right. So based on the second one, because I know you got some other questions you want to get to. So let me just ask this real quick. Based on the constitutional republic, constitutional federal republic, right? Could it be that the reason why many people feel like, hey, we need to get these people in there so that they can do XYZ for us is because they may be able to change that supreme law, amend that supreme law in a way that now benefits those who it never benefited before. Because if you think about it,
Absolutely.
right, you had to get some people in there who were willing to let these amendments go through that would say, okay, black people are no more 3/5 of a person; they're actually a human being.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Again, we just had something similar to what we're talking about 2 years ago or last year when they overruled or they threw out Roe versus Wade.
Exactly. And I was you took the thought
Okay.
right out of my head.
Okay. That
Yep.
was passed back in 1973
Hmm.
because, oh boy, we're getting ready to get into some stuff. But again, the way the system works is that it can go back and forth, as
Hmm.
you can see, because we're on this pendulum based on who's in charge, who's got the power.
Right. Which goes to the ticker on the bottom, which speaks directly to the ticker on the bottom. Is it important? Does it matter? Why or why not?
Okay.
I'm not flip flopping on my answer.
No, no.
It should
Again,
it should matter, but it don't.
well, again, I'm with you. Okay. But for the different reason.
Right, right.
And I'll get to the reason at the end, and we ain't got
Okay.
too much time because we're gonna get out of here.
All right, let's
Number
do it.
four,
Number
but
4.
everybody clear about that because see, if we thinking we doing one thing, but we really doing something different,
Yeah.
it's you gotta understand it. Let's go to the next question.
It's up. It's up.
Okay, how many parts are there in the United States federal government? What are they? This again is very important to the system, the government system, that politics, this is the way in which they get the power,
Hmm.
is based, and these are the positions of those powers.
Okay.
The legislative,
Hmm.
which is made up of the Congress
Hmm.
and the House, the
Yep.
Senate.
Those are the people who write, debate, and pass law.
Yep.
Okay.
Executive
Mm-hmm.
is the president.
Yep.
He the one that really has an agenda, has all the power
Mm-hmm.
to move that legislator with his agenda
Yep.
or her agenda.
Vice President, Vice President, Cabinet.
That's the executive. That's the
Yep.
executive branch.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the judiciary, and all they want is basically is enforce the laws.
Right.
That's all they do. Those three, they all got power. They all got their own power, and together they all have to agree.
Which goes back to that ticker.
They all have to agree.
When you think about those three segments, right, and you go back and answer the question that's on the ticker, the answer to that question, that first question, should be a yes in all capital letters with 10 exclamation points behind it.
And you're absolutely right. And again, we're gonna get to the end, and we ain't got too much time because we got to get
All
you
right.
out of here.
All right.
But it's
I won't.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Let's go to number 5.
All right. Let's go to number 5.
Democrat or Republican? I know we know what these are.
Mm-hmm.
These are go back to the first question as it relates to what politics is when
Mm-hmm.
it talks about individuals or parties looking for power.
Mm-hmm.
These are the two parties that we have in our governmental system that are seeking that power.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is either one better than the other one?
No.
Nope, not at all.
No.
And should they? Should one be better than the other one?
No.
No, absolutely not. But they are different.
They are different.
What is, in your opinion, the differences between the two?
So on a very broad definition, which
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean anything if you don't really understand it, but very broad definition, Democrats are generally liberal
Mm-hmm.
in their thought process,
Mm-hmm.
and Republicans are on the opposite end of the spectrum. They're typically conservative, right? So I was looking at this article, and it was saying that Democratic Party typically supports a larger government role in economic issues. Um, for example, backing certain regulations, social welfare programs, those kinds of things, right? They typically support the government playing a larger role in those areas, right? Where the Republicans, again, opposite, less of a role in those areas that are dealing with the economy, right? Um,
Okay, let me just say, based on what you just said,
okay.
how does that impact me as a citizen, knowing what you just said, if I'm trying to get in the game, understand the game?
That's a great question. That's a great question. And so first of all, it depends on what side of the aisle you on.
It doesn't matter.
So if you're a Democrat and you know
No,
that,
no. Just knowing who they are.
well, just knowing who they are, you got to get in the game based on how you align, based on the
What?
benefit.
No. See, that's what I'm saying. We wanting to align instead of figuring out how to play the game.
I think by playing the game, if I'm in tune with where you going, there is a way to navigate this without choosing sides.
Absolutely. That's where you need
And
to
I
be.
kind of figured that's where you're going because there is a way to do this without picking sides, which is why. And I said I wasn't going to name no names, but I'm gonna name this name, which is why somebody like a Larry Hogan can be successful because although he sits on one side, this guy knows how to he knows how to stick and move. He knows how to bob and weave to his
Well,
advantage.
Well, I mean, here's what I'm saying. What you just said is the political process of being able to maneuver and to manage politics.
Right.
It's where Obama used to say he was very what's the word? He was a very um person that was he would do what was necessary. He
Mm-hmm.
would address situation. What's the word here that I'm looking for? Pragmatize. He's a pragmatist.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't trying to be. It was pragmatic.
Right.
It was like what I need to do to be able to get my agenda across the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what politicking is all about.
Now, would you say that's why this is a whole nother conversation as well? Because would you say that's why there are individuals who uh, align themselves with a quote unquote independent party so that they could maneuver like that?
Well, again, to be perfectly honest with you, independent gives you that ideology that you'll go where and what's in the best interest
Mm-hmm.
for either himself or the country.
Right.
That's the point. Now that gives you that place to say, okay, now I can play this position at whereas that it doesn't necessarily have to be for my agenda. It's just not one of theirs that the Democrat or the Republican. I can position myself and they might not even know whether or not it's my own personal or that of the country or the constituents
Mm-hmm.
because I'm independent. I ain't got no loyalty to neither one of these parties.
Yeah.
And whenever I vote, they don't know why I'm voting what I'm voting. Hopefully, again, in light of what you're talking about, because in the power structure as an independent, you really ain't gonna get no power side.
Yeah. So let me just say this real quick before we do the other questions. For anybody who might be watching or watching now or watching the replay, I'm not the person to give political advice. Let me just put that disclaimer out here right now. Now, with that being said, right, the worst thing you could do, the absolute worst thing you could do is go to the ballot and tick off all Democrats because you're a Democrat, or tick off all Republicans because you're a Republican. This is why, to going back to question two, should you participate in politics? Why the answer is a resounding yes is because you need to be knowledgeable, because the Republican may set you up to gain the level of power you need in a particular area. So you need that him or her there. The Democrat in a totally different area may be the person you need there. So you may do a whole lot of ticking all over the place to create a puzzle. You may pick all these different ingredients from all over the place to create a meal that feeds you in the way that you need to be fed.
Again, understanding the game and playing the game
Yep.
so that you can be able to be successful in the game.
Yep. Yep.
That's what
I
this is
get
all
that.
about.
I get that.
Again, is that the way the game is being played politically? Because the people what we're talking about got the power are these two parties,
Mm-hmm.
and they fighting for power. Again, if you go back to the Senate and the Congress, that's where those parties are really active
Mm-hmm.
because that's where people don't realize if the real power of the president is in the Congress, in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
If the Congress, if your Democrat is the president and your Senate is Republican led,
Mm-hmm.
you ain't gonna get much done.
Nope.
So you got to have both of them. So if you're looking at it like that, that's why it's got to be done like that. Look, we got to get out of here quickly. Let's go to number 6 real quick.
Let's do number 6.
Can you win the political vote, a popular vote, and lose the election?
Yes.
Absolutely can. How can you? Because they have something called the Electoral College, which is number 7. Number 7 is the Electoral College is where The vote to win the election is all that you need. Now here's the trump card that you really got to understand real quick.
Right. No pun intended.
Well, actually, it is no pun intended, absolutely none, because you can lose. Donald Trump won the election in 16 with this electoral college.
Mhm,
He lost the popular vote.
mhm,
Hillary Clinton won the popular vote.
mhm,
Now, here's the other thing. Who controls the electors in the electoral college?
mm,
Whoever the party in charge of that state is.
mhm,
Who's ever in charge of that state. They can change these are not elected officials, these are appointed people.
mhm,
So that means that if the Republicans want to pick a Republicans as an electors, they can, irrespective as to the popular vote, they can vote for who they want to when it comes time to electing, to casting their votes.
mhm.
This is that trump card that people are not aware of. That even if he loses the the election with the popular vote, he can maneuver those electoral votes, even though he loses their state popular vote, because typically the electorals will follow the popular vote for each state, and they need 270 electoral college votes to win the election. He They are maneuvering him to be able to make that irrespective of the popular vote. Now,
Right.
that doesn't mean that you don't participate. Absolutely doesn't mean that you don't participate, but I'm just letting you know it's going to be a bumpy ride.
It's going to be a bumpy ride, and it's a hard sell. Unfortunately, it's a hard sell to participate when you know that.
Here's the thing, though, guys. You know what they're up against. You see, knowledge is where you get the participation.
Yeah, I trust me. I agree with you. I agree with you. It is a
You
hard sell, though.
Yeah, I get it, especially if you thinking that it's about people working for you.
Right.
You got to understand this is all about power. It's about you getting the knowledge so that you can participate in the game where they're trying to get power.
Yeah. Unfortunately, no matter who is in power this go round,
Okay,
we
let
gonna have
me
to
tell you
we
what
gonna have
my
to strap
thoughts are
in. So
real
yeah,
quick.
let's hear what you got to say.
Here's my point. I am with you 100%. Should it matter? Yes. Does it matter? Does it matter that it doesn't matter? Absolutely. Now, hear me out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It should not matter whoever wins the election. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter what election it is. It doesn't matter what election it is. Because if it matters, that means that what we're going to see come November the 5th
Mm-hmm.
is what we're going to get because it matters. It
Mm.
really shouldn't matter because we're all here as a United States of America. And it's intended to swing one way or another. And if you know that it's going to swing one way or another, it shouldn't matter which way it's swinging. Because if you have the knowledge, you can know what that liberal mindset is and participate according to the liberal mindset. If it's a conservative mindset, you should know how to maneuver and manage that conservative mindset or that agenda. So it really doesn't matter who wins. It's up to us to know how to play the game.
Yeah.
On that note, giving you an opportunity to say,
Oh.
okay, it doesn't matter who wins. It's about how to play the game.
It's about how to play the game. So what we need is some folk to teach how to play the game.
Get the power, get all about information. You got to get engaged. You got to participate. You can't participate. You can't get the knowledge if you don't participate. And the knowledge gives you the power to be able to gain the more power, the more participation, the more knowledge, the more power.
Hmm. Yeah. Hey, that's I agree. I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Well, look, hey everybody, just know we gotta go. Oliver has to go. Oliver, we went 5 minutes too late.
No
Tell people
worries.
how they can meet you and hang out with you.
Listen, if you're a social media person, that's the handle on the screen. Denali LLC everywhere on social media. Love to connect with you. We are passionate about seeing relationships thrive. As a speaker, author, and coach in that relationship building space and men's enrichment space, that is our goal, just to see you win in all areas of your life and in all of your relationships, both personally and professionally. So you can either connect with us there, or you can reach out to us if you're an email person using the email that's on your screen right now.
All righty. Oh, also, if you want to reach me, you can reach me at info@clearjourney.org. I am the founder of clearjourney.org, and I'm also an author, and I'm a speaker, and I'm also a coach and teacher in the coaching the mindset, the love mindset, the attitudes for success comes from the right attitudes. So if you want to meet me or reach more about me over the clearjourney.org, and I'm there for you. And that being said, as we say always, we can't change life, but we can help you navigate it. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Later.